Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Monday 21st October 2024 and brought to you in association with our friends at Antillean Group. St. Lucia hosts 18th OECS Bar Association Law Conference. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so glad to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. Legal professionals from across the Eastern Caribbean gathered in St. Lucia for the highly anticipated 18th Regional Law Conference of the OECS Bar Association. The event sets the stage for a dynamic exchange of ideas and advancements, promising key discussions on the future of law and justice in the region. Solage Alfred of HTS News Force reports.
The opening ceremony of the 18th Regional Law Conference of the OECS Bar Association was held on Thursday, October 17th, at the Sandals Grand Resort to a packed room of legal luminaries from across the Eastern Caribbean region. Welcome remarks were delivered by Jean M. Dyer, President of the OECS Bar Association and Law Conference Coordinator.
We have a number of interesting topics, and I think they're timely discussions which will be held by experts in their respective fields. On the second day, for the first time, we're going to have an interactive practical workshop which would focus on various areas of practice management, advocacy, AI, and anti-money laundering compliance.
A distinguished panel of speakers was present to address the gathering, with Chief Justice of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Mario Mitchell, leading the charge. Justice Mitchell regaled the audience with historical footnotes on the interesting rise of the OECS Bar Association.
Despite its inauspicious beginning, the OECS Bar Association has taken its space in the arena of regional professional organizations and, moreover, has developed and nearly perfected its signature activity, the Regional Law Conference, which, when declared open in a short while, will be its 18th edition. Madam Chair, the OECS Regional Law Conference has over the years become an integral part of continuing and enhancing the legal education of Eastern Caribbean legal professionals and keeping them abreast of new developments in the law, including the new modalities in which law is practiced in the digital age.
Chief Justice Mitchell was buoyed by the law conference's agenda to discuss the technological advances of modern litigation, touting the e-litigation portal, ELP.
We are pleased to have a wholly electronic system of case filing and case management at all levels and within all spheres of our court system, hopefully by year end. But this can only be fully realized with the full cooperation of the lawyers. And so I take this opportunity to urge counsel in all member states and territories of the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court to embrace the technological trajectory of litigation and migrate all their matters onto the ELP to complete the full digitization of our court system.
Serioja Snack, representing the Attorney General's chambers, emphasized the law conference's theme, advocate, educate, innovate, celebrate, noting that the discussions will play a pivotal role in shaping the future of law across the region.
We also note with interest agenda item reimagining the criminal justice system. As the Attorney General's Chambers is aware of several projects which we have underway in St. Lucia, such as the Backlog Project and the PACE Justice Project, which are intended to improve the processes and systems of criminal justice in St. Lucia. In that reimagining, we anticipate the discussion to touch on such areas as judge-only trials, child justice, witness anonymity, and how the criminal justice system can be so refashioned so that it never loses sight of the victims of crime who are central to the criminal process and to all sentencing outcomes.
The 4-day conference, hailed as the largest of its kind to date, drew over 150 participants from both local and regional spheres. Attendees gathered to expand their legal knowledge, engage in discussions and debates on key issues, and connect meaningfully with members of the judiciary. Solange Alfred, HTS News Force.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick, in association with our friends at
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Barbadians are being encouraged to be more risk takers as it relates to investing in their own country. CBC's Rachel Agard has that story.
Prime Minister Motley wants Barbadians to embrace a culture of taking risks through investments that further develop the country and earn more in returns than interest in the banks. She was speaking at the groundbreaking ceremony for the West Beach Barbados project, located along Roadview St. Peter.
Having the level of savings that we have in our banking sector sitting down idly, only to be used as dividends in repatriation or to finance projects that may consolidate, is not where we want to go. Having the ability to use the growth platform that we are framing as a platform for economic enfranchisement is exactly where we need to go.
The Prime Minister is also urging Barbadians to pool resources so they can undertake larger projects that they would not be able to do individually.
Many of the investments which are being made are still from people who are not Barbadian. And we welcome that investment and we're happy for it. But I want to speak to Bajans now, because the ability to pool investment and the ability to come together and to build and to own buildings or enterprises must be our focus. You will hear me say that all of the right indices are there, and you'll hear me repeat it in terms of where we are going, in terms of growth. In fact, better than most. But what is required now is to fine-tune the growth that we're having.
At least 200 Barbadians will soon be employed constructing the 24-room condominium that is the West Beach Barbados project. Construction is set to begin on October 21st and end mid-2026. Developer and chairman of BJ Investments Limited, Beyond Beercombe, says at a time when investors are retreating, his company is creating employment opportunities.
This project will employ some 200 Barbadians and will employ about 30 people on an ongoing basis thereafter. In the meantime, we will also use as much Barbadian-produced product and materials wherever possible. Our embarking on this venture at this time is an indication of our confidence in the future of Barbados, which is one of the leaders in the Caribbean, due to our stable government and their good economic management of the nation's resources.
The project costs approximately Barbados $25 million, with funding mainly from overseas sources. And Mr. Beercombe has pledged $30 million in foreign exchange to the Barbadian economy from the sale of the condos. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
Barbados has warned of a doomsday scenario for millions of inhabitants of the Caribbean due to rising sea levels, telling the Organization of American States the matter demands urgent policy responses. Permanent Representative Ambassador Victor Fernandez cited increases in sea level recorded over the last decade and the impact on coasts of countries in the region as he addressed a special meeting of the OAS Permanent Council on the consequences of legal implications of sea level rise. Ambassador Fernandez advised the OAS that difficult but necessary conversations must be held on the way forward. Ambassador Fernandez adds that access to long-term financing, as outlined in the Bridgetown Initiative, is critical.
One policy solution is for this august body to use whatever resources it has within its arsenal to support a solution. This body must assist with the transmission of knowledge and provision of technical assistance wherever possible. Any small amount helps. To this end, my delegation aligns itself with a call for increased support to the Department of Sustainable Development as well as to the Inter-American human rights organs. Small island developing states and low-lying coastal states share a distinct profile. For many of us, our coastal communities are the bedrock of our economies. Many of our tourism activities are heavily dependent on our beaches, and our populations live, work, and seek mental sustenance from our precious coasts. The enormous costs associated with relocating coastal communities and coastal infrastructure can only be achieved with substantial reform of the international practices and debt mechanisms.
Cuba restored a trickle of power to its grid by mid-evening on Friday last, hours after the island plunged into a countrywide electricity outage. More in this Reuters report. Cuba restored a trickle of power to its grid by mid-evening on Friday last, hours after the island plunged into a countrywide electricity outage. More in this Reuters report.
Grid operator UNE said it hoped to restart at least 5 of its oil-fired generation plants overnight so it can gradually restore power to broader areas of the country. The vast majority of the country's 10 million residents were still in the dark on Friday night. Scattered pockets of the capital, Havana, including some of the city's major hospitals, saw lights flicker back on shortly after dark. Residents lit candles and fires and got through their Friday evening. A local, Rafael Pedro Gomez, says small children, the elderly, and the sick were suffering the most from the outage. And an employee of a hostel, Claudia Amanda Betancourt, says without electricity, guests in the room don't have air conditioning. Virtually all businesses in Havana ground to a halt on Friday. Earlier, the government was forced to close schools. Most state workers were sent home in a last-ditch effort to keep the lights on after weeks of severe power outages. Cuba's President Miguel Diaz-Canel on TV told people to remain united and urged caution to residents from misinformation on social media. The blackout comes as residents are also suffering from shortages of food, fuel, water, and medicine. Officials blamed the outage on deteriorating infrastructure, fuel shortages, and rising demand. They also said strong winds from Hurricane Milton last week hampered fuel deliveries to power plants. Cuba has long blamed U.S. Cold War-era embargo and sanctions under former President Donald Trump for difficulties in acquiring fuel and spare parts to operate its oil-fired plants. The country's largest oil supplier, Venezuela, has also reduced shipments in the first 9 months of the year, while Russia and Mexico have also greatly reduced fuel shipments to the island.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.